News alert coming in at this hour. India has firmly rejected China's efforts to rename locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. In a statement, India's Ministry of External Affairs said creative naming will not alter the undeniable reality that Arunachal Pradesh was, is, and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India, quote unquote. Now, on the 11th of May, the Ministry of Civil Affairs of the People's Republic of China released the 5th list of names geolocating locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. In Beijing, since 2017, has now renamed 89 locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. This is a news alert coming in as India has firmly rejected China's efforts to rename locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. In a statement, India's Ministry of External Affairs said creative naming will not alter the undeniable reality that Arunachal Pradesh will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. It was, it is, and it will always be India. On the 11th of May, the Ministry of Civil Affairs of the People's Republic of China, they released the 5th list of names, and some of these names in that list geolocated to locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. Beijing has been resorting to these kinds of means since 2017 and has now renamed 89 locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. All right, I'll quickly get an understanding of the development from our Assistant Editor of Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sipal. Siddhant, China once again out with another list, again naming locations in India as per their own whims. It seems to be again a creative naming, as the External Affairs Ministry has called it. Give us more.
Well, yes, this is not the first time that China has done so. But what is curious is the timing of doing it. In fact, the notification came out on 11th, and on 12th, the formal release. Now, 10th was the day where the India-Pakistan understanding was reached on essentially how that there should be a cessation of hostilities after Pakistan launched attack on India. And India was not only able to thwart it, but India was able to inflict massive damage on key bases of Pakistan, something that is now part of a military history, a decisive victory of India over terrorism and Pakistan. But coming to the China point, the fact that China continues to rake issues, come up with cartographical aggression, naming the places according to its will, shows that how the Chinese side will continue to provoke. And in this conflict between India and Pakistan, 3 countries have emerged as potentially countries who will never align with India or converge with India. That's for China, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. But we know that India-China relationship saw a lot of green shoots of recovery after both the leaders met in Kazan last year in October on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. And since then, meetings have been happening. Both sides have agreed that this year will be an important year with announcements on a number of measures, including, of course, the start of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. But, of course, all these positive developments will now have a background that China was siding towards Pakistan in many ways. In fact, when India had struck the terror camps in Pakistan, instead of welcoming the fact that India has taken a decisive stance on terrorism, what the Chinese were doing were issuing statements saying that this is regrettable, which looks very contrary to, of course, the view on the issue of terrorism. In fact, the Chinese remain the only country that have been supporting Pakistan in terms of not listing Pakistani national as terrorists who have been involved in terror activities. There are several examples I can give you. But all in all, an important development that is happening, which has been rebutted by the Indian side in a strong way.
Siddhant, also not to forget, just to remind our viewers, China was one of the last countries to condemn that attack in Pahalgam or even mention it, and their statement pretty much came almost after Pakistan's. And Pakistan till date has never condemned the Pahalgam terror attack. But at this point, the NSA, Indian NSA, had also spoken with Wang Yi. That happened recently, and it almost seemed, and as you correctly mentioned, there seemed to be greener pastures in the relations between the two countries. But this timing to come out with this on the other end, on the eastern end, in Arunachal Pradesh, to be renaming once again, bringing out these locations. Again, it's a messaging that China is giving to India, that they're obviously, because there's a lot of bad wording which has come against, or I wouldn't say it as bad earning, but a lot of disgruntlement on the Chinese side is also coming out as being evident with these kinds of measures, especially after India mentioned that Chinese missiles were also used by Pakistan.
Well, yes, of course. The Chinese missile is for the first time that India has publicly mentioned the name of countries, both Turkey and China, in terms of their involvement in giving weapons to Pakistan, which were used against India. But all in all, we know that China is one country with which suspicions remain. And with the Chinese position amidst this conflict, we saw that the suspicion will continue for a pretty long time. We know that there were little green shoots of positivity, but I do not know how they will go now. China, of course, is going to host the SCO summit, and they'll be keen that the Indian Prime Minister travels. I do not have a confirmation right now on whether the Indian Prime Minister will travel or not, but this right now could be in a 50-50 terrain, given the fact that how the Chinese were not very positive towards India, and they had taken a staunchly pro-Pakistan stance amidst this conflict.
Understood. And Siddhant, anything further that you can share on the CCS meeting which is underway?
Well, essentially, there have been meetings after meetings happening almost every week and almost every day. And these are review meetings because, remember the Indian Prime Minister's statement, he said that the Operation Sindhur hasn't stopped. The strikes may have been paused, but we will be looking at the Pakistani behavior. So that is something that India is closely watching. We have seen reports of drone intrusion, especially after the 10th understanding. We saw the understanding being broken by the Pakistani side as well. But all in all, situation is very sensitive, and there will be review meeting after review meeting, even as Pakistan remains a country with which India will always have suspicions, and obviously India will always keep a watch on it.
Watch, and definitely any talks with Pakistan will now only be on terror or Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. That was our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, getting us the latest.